Citing and referencing techniques. This section covers the nitty-gritty of details in in-text citations. You will learn how to format citations for different types of source materials. So formatting cited materials. And so as noted in previous sections of this book, in-text citations usually provide the name of the author, the year the source was published, and for direct quotations, the page number must also be included. Use past tense verbs when introducing a quote. So you would say, Smith found, and not Smith finds. For brief quotations fewer than 40 words, use quotation marks to indicate where the quoted material begins and ends, and cite the name of the author, the year of publication, and the page number where the quotation appears in your source. Remember to include commas to separate elements within the parenthetical citation. Also, avoid redundancy. If you name the authors in your sentence, do not repeat the name in your parenthetical citation. The author's name can be included in the body of the sentence. And so an example, it would be like Chang 2008, emphasize that, quotation mark. Engaging in weight-bearing exercise consistently is one of the single best things women can do to maintain good health. Page 49. The author's name can be included in the body of the sentence or in the citation. Note that when a citation appears at the end of the sentence, it comes after the closing quotation marks and before the period. And so weight training for women, Chang 2008 claimed that engaging in weight-bearing exercise consistently is one of the single best things women can do to maintain good health. Page 49. Or you can say, weight training for women claimed that engaging in weight-bearing exercise consistently is one of the single best things women can do to maintain good health. Chang 2008, page 49. And so here are the many different ways in which you can put in your author, date, and page number within your in-text citation. And then when you do a paraphrase, when you summarize it, then all you need to do is just put in the date and the author. You don't need to put any quotation marks. If your quotation is longer than 3 lines, then you could use something called a block quotation. A block quotation is, so when you state or quote a longer passage, 40 words or more, use a different format to set off the quoted material. So instead of using quotation marks, create a block quotation by starting the quotation on a new line and indent 5 spaces from the margin. Note that in this case, the citation comes after the period that ends the sentence. So here you have your longer quotation. But I always try not to get people to use block quotations because it interrupts the flow of the paper. So I always tell people to just no more than 3 lines for a citation. Anything over 3 lines, and then you have to use a block quotation. And then including an introductory phrase in your text, such as Jackson wrote, often helps you integrate source material smoothly. This citation technique also helps convey that you are actively engaged with your source material. So here you would say, so instead of saying Jones stated, you can use different verbs. Instead of saying Jones stated. So here you could always, and these are known as signal phrase verbs. So you can Google yourself a list of signal phrase verbs so you don't keep saying Jones suggests, Jones thinks. So when you format, and then all of this gives you how you format your in-text citation. So if you have a direct quote, you have the author, the date, the page number, and quotation marks. When you have a paraphrase quote, you just have an author and a date. And then If you're in doubt, you can always look at your APA manual at www.apa.org. And so all of these will give you many different ways of, if you have a work by one author, if you have works by more than one author, then you would say, especially if there are two of the same authors, then you would have Rodriguez 2009A or Rodriguez 2009B. So especially if you have two of the same authors, you could say A or B. Or if you have works by the author with the same last name, then you should include the, if you are citing works by different authors with the same last name, include each author's initials, that's right, initials in your citation. So you would say J.S. Williams versus B. Williams, or something like that. So a work by two authors, when two authors are listed, include both authors' name each time you cite the source. So if you are citing their names in parentheses, use an ampersand between them. So here, as Garrison and Gould, 2010. A work by three authors, that's when you use ad al, isn't it? Yeah, so if you have more than three, then you write, after you list the first two, and then you would write ad al, which means, in Latin, it means and others. And then if you have an organization, then you could write, if there's if you have a website and no author names, then use the website name for the author name. So here you have website and APA. And if no author is listed and the source cannot be attributed to an organization, use the title in place of the author's name. You may use the full title in your sentence or use the first few words, enough to convey the key ideas in a parenthetical reference. And so here, living with diabetes, so you could use your article name. That's rare. Usually if there's no author name, you can use the website name. So that's kind of rare, but okay. To cite a source that is referred to within another source, and then you could say Rothensen's study on being sane or in insane places as cited in Spitzer 1975. So here, if you're talking about a work within a work, that's how you would cite it. Two or more works cited in one reference. Then you would write, at times you may provide more than one citation, more than in a reference, such as when you are discussing related works or studies with similar results. Oh, I see. Then you would write, so let's say you say Americans are obese, and then you find three different articles that all say Americans are obese. Then you're going to write something like Smith 2007, that's one article. Jones 2015, that's another article. Johnson 2024, that's another article. You can list them in a row as in-text citations if you find the same fact in three or four different citations. And if you're able to do that, that's like a sign of a really good, like very, very research paper. Okay. A famous text published in multiple editions. In some cases, you may need to cite an extremely well-known work that has been repeatedly republished or translated. Many works of literature and sacred texts, as well as some classic nonfiction texts, fall into this category. So here you would, so refer to specific parts or chapters if you need to cite a specific chapter. This is like, so in new introductory lectures on psychoanalysis, Freud explains that the manifest content of a dream, what literally takes place, is separate from its latent content on hidden meaning. Translated, 1965 lecture, I think that's a 29. That's a long time since I've used Roman numerals. Okay, electronic sources. Whenever possible, cite electronic sources as you would print sources. Use the author's name and date, where appropriate, a page number. For some types of electronic sources, many online articles, this information, in other words, in many of these articles, there's a button that says cite this source, and you press that button and the article will cite it for you. So sometimes in electronic sources, there's a place where they cite the source for you. So you should use that. Online sources without page numbers. If there's no page number, if you're on a website, you can cite the paragraph number. And if it doesn't have paragraph number, then name the section where your cited information appears, followed by a paragraph number. So if it's a website, then you count how many paragraphs to get to your paragraph. Personal communication is when you interview someone. So for personal communication, such as interviews, letters, and emails, cite the name of the person involved. Then you write the words personal communication, and then you write the date, pretty much. Yeah, here you would write personal communication and the date. Sometimes you would put the person's name, and that's how you would do an interview. At work, sometimes you share information resources with your colleagues by photocopying an interesting article or forwarding the URL of a useful website. Your goal in these situations and informal research citations is the same. The goal is to provide enough information to help your professional peers locate and follow up potentially useful. So the reason why we'd cite things is so that if people want to do extra research, they can then find exactly where you found the research, that sort of thing. And so in APA, in-text citations include the name of the author and the year of the publication whenever possible. Page numbers are always included when citing quotations. It is optional to include page numbers when citing paraphrased material. However, this should be done when citing a specific portion of a work, like literature or the Bible. When citing online sources, provide the same information used for print sources if it is available. When a source does not provide information that usually appears in a citation, in-text citation should provide readers with alternative information that would help them locate the source material. This may include the title of the source, section headings, and paragraph numbers for websites, and so forth. When writing a paper, discuss with your professor what particular standards he or she would like you to follow. And a word about ChatGPT is that ChatGPT is not a reliable source. ChatGPT is great if you just want to brainstorm ideas. But because ChatGPT hallucinates and makes up its sources, ChatGPT is just as bad as Wikipedia. It's not a reliable source. And so if you write a paper and you base it off of ChatGPT, and then somebody tries to go back and look for that source, it may not exist because ChatGPT will invent it off the top of its head. Okay? So that's why if you want to do research, you don't rely on AI. You still got to do your research the old-fashioned way. You go to the library, you go to Google Scholar, you go to the databases. If you get lost, you ask the reference librarian. So you do everything you did before AI came along. But AI is good for brainstorming ideas, or if you want to correct your grammar. Okay, AI is great for that, but not for research. Okay, so if you want to have credible sources, you go to your online library for your school, and you go to the databases and make sure you look up peer-reviewed articles, or you go to Google Scholar. That's it. You don't try and use ChatGPT or any of the AI for that matter, because AI is still in a primitive state, and I don't trust AI for resources. And if you end up, let's say you're a professional, so there was this lawyer, and he used ChatGPT for his research, and then they found out that his sources don't exist, and then he got fined $5,000 because he used ChatGPT, and ChatGPT made up the sources. You don't want to be in that. And then he became the laughing stock of all the other lawyers would laugh at him saying, ah, look at this guy used ChatGPT for his sources. Ah, you don't want to be like that. And you don't want to be fined, and you don't want to be sued. So, especially if you're a lawyer and legal research and stuff like that. So always go to the library and use online, the databases in the library. You still got to do it that way. And I remember when I read the article about the lawyer, and he was quoted as saying, but I thought that ChatGPT is reliable. And so that was also very funny. Maybe in about a few years' time, maybe in 10 years, AI may be reliable for sources, but not yet. And so I would not rely on, if you're in my LAPU, don't rely on Spark for your resources, And if you're in my Fortis class, don't rely on ChatGPT for your resources. So AI is good for brainstorming ideas. If you're stuck on an idea, on an essay topic, you don't know what to write, or if you want the AI to come up with an outline for your paper, that sort of thing. So it's good for brainstorming, good for revision, and not good for research. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel, and you can always email me at any time if you have any questions.